congrats, Nvidia. You guys really got away with a lot this time. I mean, the RTX 3000 launch, you've not only convinced the normie consumer, but also the hardcore consumers and even AMD fans to be super overhyped for a good but not good enough product launch. Of course, I'm talking about the RTX 3000 launch. Mostly the 3080, and the 3070 hasn't launched by the time I've written this and shot this video yet. But the 3090 is out, so I'll talk about that too. I mean, you've got Nvidia's whole big marketing thing about, wow, guys, look at all this performance we're giving you. It's the biggest jump ever. And then it's like, you gotta think about it critically. And, you know, obviously they're lying, right? That there's been bigger jumps in the past. You could go back far enough, you know, like late 90s, early 2000s. I'm sure there's a bigger jump in there somewhere. But even if you want to consider just the past 5 to 10 years, that the only reason that Ampere looks like as big of a jump as it is because of the absolute scam that was RTX 2000 series. And obviously, you can't pull RTX 2000 twice. There's no way people would have let them off the hook a second time with a couple percentage points more in performance and less VRAM again. There was no way. As much as I appreciate the technical effort of Nvidia working with Samsung and the 8nm and the new cooler and just cramming these chips with tons and tons of CUDA cores, I actually think that Nvidia only really did the bare minimum here in order to save their own public reception. And now Jensen Huang is coming out in his nice-ass kitchen, practically begging on his knees for 1000 series owners to upgrade to the 3000 series. Like, come on guys, please, I know we fucked you over really hard with the 2000 series, but please guys, we can't lose any competition to AMD. So I think all three cards are interesting in their own ways, from the 3090 to the 3080 to the 3070. All of these cards have this really weird, interesting, like, grill design. I know they're heat sinks, and, you know, the fans are for the airflow, but, like, it just looks like a grill. Like, it just looks like a grill. Like, if you thought the PS3 Super Slim looked like a grill, like, this is like 1,000 times more grill. And while I think the grill design is kind of funny and memeable, and I wasn't even a fan of it when I first saw the leaked images, but I don't know, like, as time has gone on, I've really started to grow to like it a lot more. And now, the major reason why Nvidia is doing this whole non-traditional reference design thing is for cooling ability, because some of the SKUs, you know, obviously all of the SKUs are pulling more power than their predecessors at the same price point, but some of them can pull like 100 watts more than their predecessors, which is kind of absurd, and yeah, good thing they have that cooling capacity. But something I don't think I've seen anybody bring up at all is because of the insane wattage going into the higher end SKUs and the absurd cooler design. Like how the hell is Nvidia gonna bring these chips to laptops? I mean, hell, current RTX 2000 graphics cards are a nightmare to try to buy a laptop for, because you see the name, you know, RTX 2080 Super on there, and you think, oh, this is equivalent performance to a desktop 2080 Super, but that's not the case. But unlike, say, the 1000 series, where it was like, okay, just knock it down a bit, and you have like the next GPU below, which is actually its performance equivalent, the RTX 2000 laptop GPUs are actually more like 2 or 2.5 tiers down. And Hardware Box did a really great video on this, where something like an RTX 2080 in a laptop performs more like a desktop RTX 2060. So now you have chips that consume more power and need better cooling being put into a form factor where both of those things are extremely limited and are not very likely to improve over the next year or two. So what's the performance delta between the desktop SKU and the laptop SKU of the same GPU gonna look like this time around? So what? Are you gonna buy a laptop with a 3080 in it, but then you actually benchmark it and then realize that you could have just stuck a 3050 into a desktop and would have performed 10% better? So it seems to me like Nvidia has kind of killed the gaming laptop, but also the professional laptop at the exact same time. That GPU accelerated tasks were having something better than a bargain basement like desktop, like in a portable form factor, is like super important for the person. It's not gonna exist anymore. I'm sure the laptop makers are so fucking furious at Nvidia right now. Like, I'm sure they're sitting there getting the specs on the requirements for all these chips they're gonna put into these laptops in like the next year or so, and they're fucking steaming, like having to build these ridiculous cooling solutions in order to power these GPUs. Alright, so I've actually seen a fair amount of reviews for the cards that are currently out. So what do I actually think about these cards? Now, obviously, we all knew that the marketing claims Nvidia had of the 3080 just flat out doubling the performance of the 2080 at the same price was obviously bullshit. But looking at a lot of reviews, there's actually kind of a big range of like a performance jump. At the bottom, you kind of have like a 20 to 25% increase over the 2080. So this is kind of stuff like DaVinci Resolve or high frame rate 1080p gaming. So stuff that was like very reliant on the GPU, but isn't like able to take entirely advantage of just all of those CUDA cores. And then like around the middle, so like 35 to 40%, maybe even 45%, is where you start to see significant gains for stuff like 4K gaming, where your frame rates really go up in 4K, which is cool and might make the card worth it to a lot of people just for that. And then, you know, in a hyper-specific couple of scenarios for stuff like RTX Minecraft or Quake RTX, you have an almost doubling of performance because it's a ray tracing bound application, and having RT cores that are twice as good doubles the performance. Now, this isn't a full review, obviously. I don't have the card, but I would say, based on the numbers I've looked at, that for the price to performance that you get, that the 3080 is a good card. That, you know, it might not be worth it as much if you're more focused on productivity. I still think the 2000 series still has way better value, assuming they ever get discounted. But for gaming and stuff, if that's all you're worried about, the 3080 actually is pretty good. And I put an asterisk on it being pretty good because it has a cripplingly fatal flaw that makes it, like, you know, on the knife's edge between really good and practically fucking unusable. Why is there only 10 gigabytes of VRAM on this fucking card, Nvidia? You cheap fucks! I've hammered you over and over again that the fucking 2080 was a ripoff compared to the 1080 Ti because it had less physical VRAM, and you didn't fucking listen! And I don't want to even hear this argument about, well, if you actually look at the bandwidth numbers and look at what 4K gaming does, 4K cares more about bandwidth than it does about physical VRAM. Okay, listen, the games that are going to come out in 3 years after the 3080 are going to be way more demanding and demand way more memory for all those textures, especially for the games that are going to be built specifically for PS5 and Series X. So good luck playing games in 3 years on this fucking card. And then there's rumors of TI variants of the 3070 and 3080 with double the VRAM happening, and just don't expect them to be cheap. Like, considering how stingy Nvidia is with VRAM now, if they're gonna give you a 20 gigabyte 3080, you're gonna bet that shit's gonna cost at least $900. Now let's move on to the 3090, which at least has the appropriate amount of VRAM for the compute capability that it has. The 3090 is like the most ridiculous excess I have ever seen. Like, it comes close to being a parity at some point, right? I mean, it is a really long card, a triple slot card, and just looks like so heavy. So good fucking luck if your motherboard doesn't have reinforced PCIe slots, because you're gonna have GPU sag in 3 months or less. Hell, the thing even supports NVLink, so you can connect it to another one, which is like even the biggest Threadripper motherboards would have a hard time being able to fit 2 of these in there at all, let alone any other like peripherals. I mean, even look at the 3090 on an ITX motherboard. Granted, ITX is small, but still, look at how huge that thing is. Okay, the motherboard's not a motherboard anymore. It's the 3090's, bitch. But the 3090, like, from the reviews I've seen though, what's the point of it even existing? I mean, Nvidia has spent the past few years jacking up the price of the top consumer card so much that they've basically just reinvented the Titan again, but worse. It's the price of a Titan, it has the VRAM quantity of a Titan, it has a performance difference of a Titan, which, you know, for gaming isn't that good. But Nvidia, in all of their wisdom, right? $1,500 card is still not enough for professional work. That Nvidia's like, no, you can't have the professional drivers. No, you can't have the software unlocked that makes a real-world performance difference in applications and rendering. No, you have to shell out even more money for it. I'm not even kidding. Linus Tech Tips review of the 3090 has the Titan RTX outperforming the 3090 by 40% because of a software lock. So hopefully the 3070 is by far the best out of these SKUs, because it seems like it has hints of being the best SKU, that it doesn't need as aggressive cooling, that it has a more traditional design, and that coincides with not drawing as much power. But at the same time, though, it does kind of have the same VRAM limits as the 3080s, so I'm not sure. Well, I think I've rambled enough about these cards, so I'm gonna go get dinner or something, I don't know. So anyways, guys, that's it, and have a good day.